You started out as this creator, right, with the podcast, doing everything yourself, a podcast for Japanese learners. Um, you decided to take your business to the next level and to build a big business. Why? Because there are many people who are just happy to be a creator, right? And they want to they want to be the creator for the rest of their lives. You decided to make that switch and say, okay, I'm going to hire people for the content creation. I'm going to be the CEO. I'm going to be the business builder. Yeah. Tell a little bit about how you made that decision and why you had that ambition.
Yeah, I think for full disclosure, no idea at that time. Um, you know, I think it's interesting to look back in hindsight and say, well, I had a clear plan, I had a clear vision. But I think we might have talked about this before. And, every year there are certain best practices that really have value. Yeah, let me ask you a question. Have you ever written a mission statement?
Um, Not really, but like when we write like a tagline on the website or something, then we do write down or we do think about a good brand statement so that as soon as people land on our website, that they can connect. They're like, whoa, this is what I want. I want to be part of this club. Um, so yeah, I mean, I studied marketing. I have a degree in marketing, and we always had to write down like mission and vision statements, or how do you call that? Never done it in that way, but most of the time, just yeah, when I had to create a website, I had to come up with a good tagline. I think having a good a brand statement, I think, is quite important. But yeah, that's also something that I only learned later.
And it's so interesting. We recently did an exercise, and the reason I'm talking about this is when we first started, we were thinking about maybe taking some investing. Some people contacted us as we started to grow, and we had to put together a business plan, mission statement, and things. And it was a good exercise. And a year later, we looked at the statement, and it changed so radically. And these things are always kind of in flux. So you don't always have to have your next 3 years mapped out, but I think what you do need is a clear, concise plan for what the next product will be. How many subscribers do you want to get to your newsletter? And these smaller goals will eventually snowball into these bigger things. Looking back in hindsight, you might be able to connect the dots, or they might even not even be related. But I think if you focus on these smaller goals, more relevant to your current business, and think about getting dollars in the door now to fund this next thing you want to accomplish, I think that's where probably the priority should be. And again, I'm speaking from someone who bootstrapped. If you have a different plan and you're trying and you have investors and you want to bring on more money, I think maybe a different guest could probably give you more insight. So my approach is always from the bootstrapped. We never took outside investing. So our goal was focused on bringing in dollars to fund the next product. And in our case, it was the Japanese 101, Japanese Pod 101 website that was driving the revenue to start the next website, which was then Korean Class 101, and then the next website. And in doing it that way, we learned how to be self-sufficient.
Yeah. Would you say that you are goals driven? Because we work with some creators who are very comfortable, making enough money, doing what they love, and they're happy, they're satisfied. They do not really have the need to push themselves to the next level or to hire people to create new products. I mean, yeah, I guess those are things that always contribute to a bigger business, but there is not really that pressure. Like, have you always pushed yourself forward, or have you had people around you who push you forward? Why?
Let's take one step back and analyze the creators that who it's funny, like sometimes I think some creators underestimate what they've done. Yeah, well, I've only just I kind of just started a channel and I grew to 100,000 or 50,000 people, and I just made content for a couple of years. I mean, that in itself separates you from kind of someone who thinks about doing things to executors. You're already an executor on a high level. Now, I think what happens is that a few things, and speaking from my own experiences, when you first strike out on your own, there are these learning curves, right? And everything you do in business is a learning curve. You mentioned marketing, what you do. So let's just take a creator. So creators making videos. So there's probably a learning curve for videos. There's a learning curve for marketing those videos. There's a learning curve for setting up a website. There's a learning curve. So I think people, regular people, maybe have a capacity for just a few learning curves. People who are doing well and really promoting themselves and growing their base, these creators, they probably have a capacity for 10 to 15 learning curves easier. But I think you kind of can relate on how many learning curves. It's maybe infinite. You give me a hint here.
Yeah, I try to limit it now, because I realize that I need to focus on the most important tasks that only I can do. Like, for example, these interviews with you, right? But man, I used to do everything myself. Like when we started Langpreneur, I was, I told Ollie, like, yeah, okay, then we're going to do this and I will create a website. He said, man, you cannot do all the things. Hire somebody to create a website for us. And, I used to make all these designs in Canva myself. And he was like, I don't want to see any Canva
Wow.
designs anymore. Now we start working. He said, man, your goal should be to outsource and to delegate and to spend money, and actually getting all the stuff done in a professional way. And yeah, now I'm trying to limit myself and just focus on to basically not learn any new skills anymore, but just get better at those skills that I'm already using. I guess that's also the power of having a business coach or a business partner, right? To just keep you focused and make sure that you don't do any stupid things. But yeah, that has been really useful for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to these learning curves, so you have these high level executors. These people had an idea and went from idea to executing. And maybe they've been through about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 learning curves. And that willingness to add one more to their belt, under their belt, is kind of like it gets to be a hurdle. And like you said, there's business partners. I'm lucky to have one of the best business partners in the world. And, we split these learning curves and we share the learning curves. And so to these people who got to a certain point, and sometimes, they're content and that's okay. But sometimes, like you said, there may be a partner short, a business partner short, a mentor short, an advisor short, that maybe could help them accelerate those learning curves in areas that they might not know. In my case, my business partner takes care of a lot of the technical things. We share expertise, and one of the kind of toughest parts of being an entrepreneur, it's pretty lonely out there. So there's that, being outlets for one another. So these are all components that give you the energy and motivation to keep taking on these learning curves.
Yeah. So what has been your motivation to work towards your goals then? Having the business partner, or I've the feeling that you've always been a very, I don't, I only know you since last year, but like when you hear you talking and you're talking about these goals and, you always want to go to the next level, more revenue, hiring more people. I mean, that's quite fascinating. Have you always pushed yourself, or were these other people around you?
Yeah, man, such a good interview. These are great questions. To be perfectly honest, I think the original motivation was competitiveness, and I would say the unhealthy competitiveness, meaning like in school we're taught to compete against each other, right? So when we see someone, we're kind of, I'll speak for myself again. I was kind of taught to, who's the best guy? All right, let's compete with them. And then if you can beat the best guy, then who's the next best guy? And so there's this unhealthy competitiveness that I think a lot of us are trained to do. So I think that's what kind of jump started it. But there's actually healthier competitiveness, like meaning that I was able to reach with my business partner, that we're competing together. And then we're including people in the team, and we're creating a mastermind where that mastermind is not the arch enemy. Like we think of these superheroes and the mastermind is the bad guy, but the ability for say, for example, for Jan, you and me to work together to create a higher level of intelligence. So this mastermind is something that you can get to if you can move past that initial unhealthy competitiveness and move towards something a little more healthy and working towards a common goal and trying to reach it faster. Man, this got deep.
Yeah, no, I like I like these conversations. I'm sure our listeners enjoy it too. But that's also the reason why we, for example, started this inner circle, right? So, yeah, being competitive, I guess it's a good thing, especially in business. But I think it's also important to realize that you can often learn from your competitors and work together, right? By brainstorming, by doing all these mastermind sessions. That's why we launched the inner circle last year, which you are also part of. Um,
And yeah, let me just tie this together full circle. So I started with that unhealthy competitiveness and moved towards this healthier competitiveness. And since then, there are stages I went through. That unhealthy competitiveness got me started, and in order to grow, in order to trust people, in order to leave things to people, you have to work past that thought process of, that you're always going to be the best one to do something. You have to learn how to trust, and you have to learn how to do these things in order to build. And a funny thing kind of happens on the way, that you realize that maybe you're not the best at all these things. Maybe there are people better, and you find out fast. In my case, we could touch on that a little later, but there were certain things that I did that I felt gave me my identity inside the company. And as the company grew, I learned how to delegate these things. And as I did, all of a sudden, I found that other people did them better, faster, and smarter. And it was kind of humbling in a way, but it was that comes with that confidence.